Hello, welcome to my show. This is Stephan Pehrsson.
Hello.
It looked great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, before we talk about that, tell us how you got to where you are. You were obviously born as a baby and then you went to film school?
Pretty much. It was, where did I start? I started, I come from Denmark. I grew up over there, and I sort of had a dream of, working in the film industry at some point. So did a lot of short films over there. I managed to weed my way into sort of a short film world. I did a course in Denmark called European Film College, which was fantastic. It was a great place where you are 100 people, 50 people from Denmark and 50 people from the rest of the world, and you live there for 8 months, and then you live, breathe, and eat film, and did that for 8 months, and then I got into a lot of short films. I've sort of worked out that camera sort of seemed to be the strength, the one that the bit that I sort of did the best, or I don't know, it's sort of gravitated towards the camera. And then spent the next 5 years sort of working in lighting departments and helping out, as camera assistant and all those kind of things, and shot maybe 25 short films on absolutely ridiculously tiny budgets and certainly didn't get paid. And then that sort of gained me entry to the NFTS in the UK, and did film school for 2 years.
What year was that you went to?
So I joined the film school in 2001, and I graduated 2003. And that's where I met Toby Haynes. Toby Haynes directed this particular thing you just seen. And we did some of our first productions at film school. So it's a long running relationship. We've been known each other for 23, 24 years now. So yeah, it's been a great, successful. I have to say we started off doing some terrible films. We got the worst critique when I was at film school. I think one of the projects we did was called An Unmitigated Disaster by Stephen Frears.
There you go.
Yes, exactly.
Supportive, was he?
Exactly. I know, he was a lovely man. And Toby sort of piped up and said, "No, some people like it." And then Stephen Frears went, "Well, we all have our mothers." So take that to the face. But since then, we progressed, and we both did, some terrible television in our early careers, but paid the bills.
I think you can't do good work without doing bad work first. No one mentions that. No one's born fully formed.
Absolutely. So yeah, did various TV programs, and then we sort of managed to we sort of did things apart, and then we did things together, and we did some Doctor Who's. We did a show called The Musketeers. We did something called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and then this. No, so not this. Then we did another Black Mirror, and then we did something else, and then we did this. Yeah.
Great. So you keep kind of working together and working.
Yeah, we do things, and then I work with we work with other people, and also then he goes off to prep, and he's gone for a year and tries to get a feature off the ground, and then it doesn't work out, and then he's back trying to get something else, and then we work again.
And then when he came to it, how did he pitch it to you?
How did he pitch it? It was such a strange thing, because it's sort of it's a romantic story, but with some psycho kills. It's really hard to sort of get the tone of this. And I think a lot of people, myself included, reading the script was really struggled with it. So like, what is this? What is this supposed to be? How does this work? Are you rooting for them? Are they disturbed? Is it a dream? All those kind of things sort of go through your head. But Toby had a sort of very clear tone, or very sort of clear sort of path that he wanted to sort of steer it, and we managed to sort of do something interesting with it.
Great. And then the visual approach, was that from him? Was that from you? Did you kick it
was
around
a lot of it came from the script, of course. We had sort of the fantastic thing that it was set in the 70s, late 70s, of course. So the late 70s has, interesting texture. What it does to a film, I find, is just that you can't just turn up with a camera anywhere. Anywhere you have to shoot, you have to design. You have to at least remove some cars, or you have to, everything has to be sort of created in some sense. So through that, we could sort of be very selective about the colors and the palettes and, the costumes and all the kind of stuff, and sort of really sort of build it towards that. And then for the sort of cinematography language, we sort of thought, what should it be? Should it be a bit like sort of a horror film from the 70s. And we tried to lean into that. Certainly for the opening, we probably, you get 5 minutes into it, we probably forgot about it a little bit. But certainly for the opening, we were very keen. That's Toby, actually. Toby came in and said, I want some zooms. I like zooms.
Right.
Let's do some zooms. And so we have that opening shot. It's just that zoom into the window, and it just goes in and in and in. I just feel like it sort of really places you in the film, in the world, sort of almost instantly,
Absolutely, it sets you up straight away. And then I guess you use the zooms then for that, and then for kind of some of the violent scenes.
Yes. Sort of certainly her early violent scenes when she has these dreams. She has these sort of weird. She imagines, what she would actually like to do to people, if she had the power, or if she could go far enough. And for that, we sort of lend into, I don't know if she's her character as a film buff, but I sort of imagine what would horror film look like at that time, and we've sort of had an idea that maybe, because sometimes I just remember sort of the blood in the horror film from the 70s, was always sort of the wrong color. It was a bit sort of pink, and it was always and often the effects were sort of overdone, and sort of glass sticking out of people's necks, and so we sort of thought with a bit of zooms, and then this sort of giallo, I think we sort of tried to live, that kind of I forget. Well, who's the guy who does giallo films? Well, there's a few of them. The Italian. Again?
Argento.
Argento, exactly. So Argento and Leonardo Fulci, those kind of people, did these over colorful, very expressionist movies, and we sort of thought maybe it could be fun to sort of play with that for those early sort of trigger memories. Yeah.
And then, what was the most, like, when you read it, when you were in prep, what was the bit, like, I find in every job there's always one scene where you're just dreading it because it just seems too hard. Was there anything on this?
Was there? Well, I mean, there was so much, I think there was a lot of stuff we sort of had to work out that we just didn't know when we started, how, what is this? There was there's a sequence when she gets... she gets shown what the future may look like, when the demon comes in and he snaps his fingers, and the eyes glaze over, and suddenly, her flat is on fire.
Yeah.
But that's not how it was written in the script, it was just sort of, she was just been shown, an apocalypse.
Right.
So we sort of just go, what's that?
Okay.
Yes, apocalypse. How do we do that?
Yeah.
There was no more description than that, and we really thought long and hard. We sort of placed it in the middle of a street, and with people running around and explosions going off, and that's how we're going to do it for a long time.
Right.
And then we sort of just had a brainwave. No, it should just be from her perspective in her flat. What would apocalypse look like in her flat? And then how creatively do we then do that,
What was the practical application when it came time to do it?
Yeah, so we did a little sort of previs. So we worked out, we sort of shot her in the flat, sort of running around, and then we sort of knew some of those bits had to be when the world was aflame. So we shot it all in normal light, and then we shot it all in a red light. And then we edited very roughly on my phone. We sort of edited that together into a little sequence, and then we sort of worked out. We had like maybe 6 shots that was supposed to be when the flat was on fire, and then we talked sort of to art department. We had a sort of couple of discussions like how can we achieve this. Obviously, vis effects was mentioned, and then we thought we built this set, so why don't we just, when we finish with the set, why don't we just burn it?
Really?
So we took the set and we took it out of the stage. Of course, that would be too dangerous doing it, burning down Twickenham. So we took
Cowards.
it. Yeah, I know. So we took it to a car park in this sort of army yard where we shot some other scenes and rebuilt it again in a car park, and then we lit it on fire.
In you go, actors.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get in there. Of course, safely, very safely. We had, there's some lamps there, and also very specific. So we knew the shot just had to take her from the sofa to the door. It had to take her over to the window. It had to look. So we could be very specific like this. Just these 6 angles, shots that we need, and we just shot those. And we probably, I was actually doing other things while this was happening. Ed's here. I saw Ed somewhere. So Ed shot that sequence, and
Ed Clark.
Ed Clark is the camera operator. He's up there somewhere. Oh, there he is. Waves. So he shot that bit. Well done, Clark. Yeah. And so you've just got these exact shots, and we lit them on fire.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a little bit of VFX enhancement. It didn't
Yeah.
fully work. There's no roof on the set, for instance, for the flames
Yeah.
has to go somewhere. There were certain things missing. There was no glass in the windows. So
Right.
there had to be some help.
It's a great way to do it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Burn it down.
And there won't be any overtime because...
Exactly. We can't go back. The set's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once it's done, it's done.
Exactly.
Tell us, you then working with Alex Gascoigne, your colorist, who's also here somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Up there, yes. Yeah, well done. I mean, we were sort of. I was fairly pleased with it when I came in. But it was, it got cut together, but it was missing something. We needed sort of. We put a lot on it. We had a sort of quite an orangey kind of look, certainly for the interior scenes and the night scenes, but maybe it was a bit overdone. And we sort of sat with Alex, and we had a sort of few references from I can't even remember what the movie was. There was some 70s movie that I found. Suspiria. Yeah, Suspiria, but also there was some, I can't remember the other, but there were some 70s movies that I found sort of this kind of look. Can we get it towards this? And Alex just sort of, he just played with it a little bit and softened it a little bit, and he just sort of massaged it in and just gave it sort of the final look. And I thought it turned out really well. But also we were so lucky with the costumes and the texture of everything. The posits, just orange and browns, and her costume is brown. There was just something about it. It all felt of a world, you sort of embedded.
Did you have a heart attack when you saw the Boney M costume? I was thinking, going, a black actor in that white costume at night, it's like...
Yes. It was tricky, but we just got on with it. It was... it felt right. Actually, that was another thing that happened in the script. When we first got the script was said that it was like a Sid Vicious type of character. So we read that and we sort of go, Sid Vicious, that's all right. And then sort of Toby sort of had a thought and he went, Sid Vicious, but, why would she imagine him as Sid Vicious, or if he just appears as Sid Vicious? Shouldn't he appear something that she likes? Yeah. And then we sort of had a thought about, well, what would she like? And maybe she's watching, Top of the Pops or something. And then suddenly, I don't know how it came up, but somebody just said, oh, it could be the guy from Boney M, and then suddenly, exactly, and then it became this sort of, then it became Papa, and then of course, then suddenly, again, the song like Rasputin, there's a video for that from Top of the Pops that we watched, or maybe it was, maybe it was maybe it was a German music program, but we found this video, we saw him in this white outfit, and we just went, that makes sense, he's a demon, but he's dressed like an angel. And then
you got to recreate the music video.
Exactly, that was great fun. It was actually done on when Michael Smart has a speech. He sort of stands on a stage, which was in a hall. I forget where that was, but it was sort of an old hall, sort of built in the 50s or something. And when you pull the curtains aside, that was sort of a stage with old sort of stage lighting around, and we just sort of put him up there with the Well, what you realize is how how crap those sets, because all we had was like tin foil and some lamps, with some spinny rotating colors in front of them and a star filter, and it suddenly looks exactly like Top of the Pops. It was very, very cheap the way they did it. But I thought, one other thing we did that really made that work. Was we shot that on a vintage a tube camera. I forgot what they called, I think it was an Ikegami or something, but it was one of the last ones that still work. And there's this company, I'm not sure what they're called, but we were able to sort of plug that into a digital recorder, but the signal coming out of it was how those kind of TV shows would have looked. So when you sort of pan the camera, highlights sort of have this sort of weird tail that comes after it, and then, that combined with a star filter, you're transported to the 70s.
I don't think you can emulate it any other way. I think, you know, you have to use the crappy old cameras and
absolutely,
then, do it that way.
Yeah.
Then all the print stuff that you applied later, I love that there was just, like during the killings, you got just that bit noisier and grainier and jumping.
And I think it comes back. But we certainly, did it happen? We sort of wanted it to come back at the end as well when the apocalypse happens at the end and they sort of walk into the light. I don't know did it still happen? Did we still add it to that? I can't remember now. But we sort of had an idea, like whenever she was dreaming, maybe that had sort of a little bit of that filming. It sort of happened. It was one of those ideas that turned up in post. Like how can you do this? But we thought like this sort of noise, and film grain and something, and the Suspiria, reference. We just thought maybe that film thing would just make it feel like it's a dream. She's dreaming, and then maybe get you a little question mark at the end when he ends. Was it all a dream?
Right.
Which perspective should you take on this? It could still work either way.
Yeah. There's also you had a lot of mixed light, a lot of warm and cool everywhere.
Yeah. I think
was that very deliberate, or is it just?
It's very deliberate, but that sort of comes from me. I just love mixing light sources. I always sort of love. I love the practicals and the street lights and all that kind of stuff to sort of light the scene, and then instead of having black in the shadows, they just want sort of a negative color. So like a blue thing that just sits there, and so you still have information in the shadow. Especially when you work with. An actor like Papa, who's got very dark skin. You suddenly, if you don't, he will just disappear into the background. So you always need some kind of fill light. And I just thought the blue light and the way sort of Alex sort of balanced it, and with Chris, the gaffer as well, we sort of managed to just find a level where it hopefully doesn't feel lit. It feels like it's just looking into the shadows a bit. Yeah.
I did notice that thing about she goes to the basement and it's dark, but there's 4 practicals.
Yes. So, you have to give yourself an easier life sometimes, So it's always, I always find that if you put the practicals in the right place, your job is sort of, 50% done.
Absolutely. I saw in Keith Holligan's bedroom as well, he happened to have 3 lamps.
Yeah, and all on.
I mean,
Exactly. But he ran ahead, and he wanted it to look nice for her, So I think it totally makes sense in the story.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience? It's kind of, anyone got anything they want to ask? Surely someone. Here's a man with a hand in the air.
Thanks for a great show.
Thank you.
So apart from zooms, what other factors influenced your lens choice? Can you talk about how you went about choosing lenses?
Yes. So we shot on the Hawk lenses. I thought of, again, the look, we wanted this sort of 70s look, and sort of 70s look to me is Spielberg, and sort of that sort of anamorphic look that he got on his film in the early 70s. He sort of, and I loved it when there's a highlight, it has like a flare and it has a little line going through it, and I really wanted that feeling for the show. And we looked around, what could give us that sort of effect the best, and found that the Hawk lenses, and we ended up using V-lights, just gave us the best sort of result. We had such a great time with them. What they do is they have just about the right amount of bending. It bends but not too much. It has the fantastic flare, and then it has these little bands of focus, and it also sort of seems to drop off. There's a bit of vignetting going on on the edges. So naturally you're just getting this sort of nice sort of graded look in camera. So I was really pleased with that.
And then did you do more defocusing in post?
Not really. I don't think. Sorry, it was a little bit. But what we did, we slightly softened it. Maybe. We blended some pixels when we got there. I think Alex, I'm not sure what you used, but it was something where we sort of looked at it, it's like, it's a bit too sharp. And then Alex would do, like this, and it would just be, and it'd be perfect,
Pay that man more money.
Yeah, absolutely. You should work with Alex, he's fantastic.
And then, what were the zooms you used?
The zoom was completely box standard, I say box standard, like an Optimo 24 to sort of whatever, 240, 270, 290, exactly, 290, one of those. Yeah. And we did test anamorphic zooms, but what I found was the range was either super limited, so you could only zoom from like a mid shot to a slightly tighter mid shot, or it's just in the wide end, and what we wanted was something that could start with a fully wide shot and zoom right into a couple of eyes. We also test there is zooms out there that have an anamorphic attachment, but what they do instead, I find the anamorphics look best when they have a front element to the anamorphic, because it bends the picture in a really nice way, and it gives you those sort of funky sort of halation, sort of the oval highlights in the background when it's out of focus. There is the long zoom, but they put then the element on the back of the lens, and I sort of felt like you just. And then instead of having a 2.8 lens, you have a 5.6 or a T-stop 8 lens, with this little element on the back, and I just thought it was a waste of effort.
Yeah.
But again, luckily, Alex was able to create, a matte and a filter for us. So those shots came up, we could sort of blend them in and make them sort of match the hawks.
Well, I know when Matt Gray shot Vigil, his episodes, he just mixed spherical and anamorphic the whole time, and no one's ever noticed.
Exactly. Exactly. I've done it before.
Yeah, there's liberty.
It's quite I was often, actually this wasn't a problem this time. I found it often with VisFX, that they find, especially when you use vintage anamorphic lenses, they all get a bit like, it's very hard for them to track, and get, because whenever you pull focus on anamorphic lens, the points just completely move space and side, the lenses are put together in funny ways. So I've shot anamorphic shows, but then I had a set of sphericals whenever we needed to do a VFX shot.
Yeah.
But not on this one.
That makes sense.
This one they put some black box on the camera and which was able to track all the focusing and all the so they got all the correct metadata in the camera, and then they were able to then do the VFX shots without any extra hassle.
Great stuff. Any more questions? Where's that?
Hello.
Hi.
So I noticed a lot of camera movement throughout the episode, sometimes more subtle and sometimes more punchy. Can you tell us a bit more about your thought process behind it?
The camera movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we sort of, we had sort of a moment like when do we go handheld and when do we sort of stay on sticks? And I think it was just a little bit with her emotional state, when she was sort of getting a bit more agitated, then handheld, sort of felt like the right way to go with it, and we would sort of just move around with her and experience the world, through her, through her eyes or through her movement, but at the beginning we sort of wanted the zooms and sort of establish the world in a more sort of filmic kind of way, so we just, we zoom into various people and we try to sort of elegantly get her, into her shop in Posits and see her like do her daily life, and that was all sort of these very, very controlled moves to sort of get us into it. But I don't think I could say anything more clever than that.
Yeah. On the day.
On the day, yeah. Oh, sorry.
This man here has a question.
Good job, Stephen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed that. Couple of things, really. The 70s look you took on. I've seen 70s telly, and it's not very nice. People trying to redo that. But you created a really nice looking
Oh, thank you.
70s through the texture.
Yeah.
But also, I think the kind of lights you're using are much softer probably than were used in the 70s, where you got that slightly harder look. Was that quite a conscious kind of departure or adventure you took there?
I think we just, I mean, I guess we could have, if we wanted to go for a completely authentic look, absolutely we should have used, 650s unfiltered, just spot it up in their faces. But I don't know, that was not our intention. I think we still wanted to make it feel authentic and real. And to me, sort of, that just feels like the practicals should be doing the job, and then you just help the practicals a little bit, and they would be, the practicals in her flat all sort of have soft, coatings on them, so it felt natural that the light that would hit her would also be soft. So that was more case of me sort of feeling that felt more natural, and then I think that the 70s texture more came from the color and maybe some of those sort of zoomy shots is what.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you. The other question is a techie one about the HDR, SDR, Netflix, and whether you had any adventures there.
We graded in HDR, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
this
no,
was
Alex.
SDR, wasn't it?
This is, and what was this? This was an SDR? Or?
Well, it's an SDR projector, so
It's an SDR, yeah.
yeah.
So we graded in HDR, and that's what we saw in the monitor. I've sort of been fairly happy with the process so far. I sort of got used to it now. That that Netflix. I think Netflix does it particularly well. All you do to Netflix is that you give them an HDR master and saying this is what I'm really happy with, and then if you're lucky, you get to sit in a trim pass where they take that and then translate it into sort of the flattest SDR version you can have, and you get to see them both side by side and see whether you can sort of be happy with both. And what they do there is they give you a little. They sort of take that and then they translate it with some very simple codes, saying this little bit more contrast, a little bit less contrast with this, to translate it to an SDR properly. And then Netflix takes that and then makes 20 different versions to if you watch it on an iPad or an iPhone or a TV with 1,000 nits or 800 nits, and so when you press play on Netflix, they give you the right version. But I find that they do it exceedingly well from those things. I haven't seen it look wrong on any of the places that I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. So in your original HDR grade, how deep did you go with the black? Because that's the big difference, isn't it, really?
I know,
it's in
that
the
was
black.
probably
Or
slightly...
did you lift that so it had a sense of the SDR? Because I'm always amazed when you project in a cinema.
Yeah.
That is not black, that's grey.
Yeah, of course. I think on a TV, like a good sort of screen like we would have had in a grading suite, the blacks were much richer, definitely. But I think it was more that we used the HDR in a way that we sort of found, it was almost like an SDR. We sort of sat it in a plane that looks nice to us, and maybe the highlights would sit a little bit above, but we didn't use the range in that way because sometimes if the practicals go too bright and get them up to 1,000 nits, they take your eye. You start looking at the practical rather than the face of the person that's talking. So we would sort of try to sort of manage it and sort of keep it to sort of an SDR-y kind of look within the HDR framework.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Someone
I
back
see
here.
someone up there, yeah.
Stephan, well done. It's really, really nice. I just wanted to say, a lot of us here, obviously work in this industry, and I often think when I go to the cinema or watch something on TV, that the best stuff is the stuff you don't really notice. You start at the beginning and you sit through it and you're engrossed with it, and you get to the end and you think, wow, that was fabulous. And that's what I think about this. Everything was seamless. Nothing stood out. Nothing was annoying. There were no nasty edges or anything. Absolutely wonderful. So well done. You and your crew. Brilliant.
Thank you. Great, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, to that note, I can say there's a fair few of us who did work on it. There's a couple of, got a focus puller and Ed, and anyway, so yeah. There's jotted around, and I'm sure they'll stick around and for a chat if you stay for a drink afterwards.
Buy them a drink.
Buy them a drink, exactly.
Is there anybody else with a question? Yeah, right here.
You mentioned you had a previs for the fire sequence.
Yeah.
How much of the rest of the show was storyboarded or not storyboarded, especially with the sequences at the start, with the music in the background? It just cuts really well together. Oh,
thank you. The opening was, we had some ideas. We sort of knew that we had to get her from getting out of bed, packing her lunch, and going to work. But what shots we were going to do was very much, we started on the clock radio, come back to her face, but that's sort of where it ended. And then we needed a shot with her in the mirror and a shot with her in the top. It was very much a developing thing, which also meant that after the first day of shooting, we were half a day behind.
Yay!
Which our producer was thrilled. with.
That makes you like all the greats.
Yeah, exactly. But we caught up.
To be fair, no one's ever said that film looks so on schedule. So
Exactly. It's very true. The other previous the fire sequence, and the only other sequence I remember sort of previous thing was the driving scenes. So again, we sort of struggle. We are in shooting cars, 70s cars on real roads. It's really tricky because you don't really, and at night as well. It's tricky because you can't drive very far before you see a normal sort of present day car. So we had to be very specific about that sequence. So we planned that quite clearly. We need a shot from them in the car. We need a profile of them in the car, and then we did a driving shot that goes left to right, and we need the close up here. We worked it all out. The funny story about that was we did the whole storyboard, and what we did was we sort of imagined that the camera was in the passenger seat, and then the driver was there, and so we had to do that shot on all the characters, and then we had to shoot the sequence where she overtakes and drives him off the road. And what we realized that on the day we were shooting it was she was going to have to drive on the wrong side of the road to do that. He's actually he has to drive. He's not driving in the middle of the road.
Oh, of course.
He drives on the left because she goes around him that way and knocked it. But we already committed to that sequence, and we sort of going, well, she's in a country road. There's no lanes. Maybe people won't think about it. And I think we got away with it.
Me.
Exactly. But the thing is that there's Charlie Brooker who writes all the Black Mirrors. He's a stickler for detail, period detail, and anything that just a little bit. But luckily, he never noticed that because he probably would have asked us to reshoot. Exactly. He had a thing. I don't know if you noticed. There was a thing. We shot a scene where the lady cop goes into the toilet and sort of says, "Oh, are you in here?" And he was convinced that we shot it. There was a glass door in that thing, and that building was built in the early 70s, and it was built with that glass door. That glass door was original, but he said, "I'm not convinced that glass door is original. That's a door from the 80s." So he wanted us to change it. So in VFX, he added a wooden frame to the glass door, which you look at the film again and see that particular shot. That's an awful VFX. That door doesn't look real at all. But because you don't know, you don't think that you're going to change the door, you don't notice it.
It's also weird to have a glass door on a bathroom.
I know.
And that is Keith Mulligan has a glass door in his bathroom.
I know, that is odd. And yeah. But that's what they did. This is Harrow Town Hall, and, there are weird people there.
Yeah. Say no more.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to know anything from his brain? No.
Yeah, I think we've reached the end.
I mean, relationship advice, gardening.
I can do it all.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.